And we're back.
We're back
now. Week 7.
We were just like, who's gonna do the intro?
Yeah, right.
We still don't really have that down yet. Who's starting the show? Whether it's
I think we've been like trading off back and forth.
Yeah.
I've been listening, and you've done some, and then I've done some.
Well,
we usually go back.
I'm
and
just
forth.
like I wait a couple seconds, and I'm like, is he gonna go or do I go?
Yeah, exactly. Right? And there's always like we're always talking right before I'm about to hit the button, and then I just stop, and then you hit the button.
Yep.
Fucking crazy.
So, but guys, welcome to show 7.
7.
All right, 7.
Yeah, it's been 7 weeks.
You know, having a lot of fun, and this week is going to be even better.
Yeah.
We have a special guest this week, which I will introduce in a second. A little housekeeping for you. We do have an Instagram page now. It's We'll Take It From Here podcast. We also are on YouTube. We have one show uploaded so far. Working on getting the others uploaded as well. And so keep an eye out for that. Like I said, we're doing shows once a week, and we're excited to keep bringing them to you. So without further ado, we have my good friend Todd Lyons here. He is a United States Air Force veteran. He is a fitness and nutrition god, I would say. Certified personal trainer, certified strength and conditioning specialist and coach. He has trained over 400 clients in the gym setting in person, and has competed actually in a couple of bodybuilding shows, placing second in his very first show that he's ever done.
It's impressive.
And has completely transformed his life. And he's also a very good friend of mine. So, Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Donnie. Happy to be here.
Man.
Joe,
Yeah.
thank you. Happy to be here.
Great.
And any knowledge I can dispel on you or your followers out there, I'd be more than happy to do so. So, fire away.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, nice. I guess we could, that was a great introduction, but maybe also if you want to just give an introduction yourself, you know, who you are, what you do, you know, where you grew up, etc., just to give a audience maybe some background.
So, mostly an East Coast guy. I grew up in Connecticut and New Jersey. I spent time out in Nevada and Texas when I was in the military, in the Air Force.
Nice.
Background, I started in the corporate security sector years ago. I came out of the military and went into corporate security. And it was during my time in corporate security that I worked with a guy who kind of reminded me of Lou Ferrigno. He kind of looked like him and looked like a bit. The guy Dennis, great guy. He's probably in his 60s or 70s by now.
Isn't that Hulk?
Yes, that was Incredible Hulk back in the day. Dennis, I never was really big into the bodybuilding world per se. Like, I always thought it was interesting, but like he actually got me into it when I came out of the military. Because the way the military trains you is different than like what you learn in bodybuilding. So it was there that I started to learn while I was working at my corporate security job about the principles in bodybuilding. And as I started to see results, people started asking me questions about it. And so then I put one and one together and said, you know what, if they're asking me questions and I'm giving them information, then what makes me think that I can't get paid to do the same exact thing? So that's where I went into school on the side to be able to get into personal training. That led me on a detour of my career into personal training, which I did for about 7 to 8 years. I still have a couple people I answer questions for and stuff, but not as committed as I was to it, as I've gotten jumped and bitten by the corporate bug, and I now work full-time in pharmaceutical industry.
Cool.
Gotcha. Right on.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
So that bodybuilding thing, that's been evolving for quite a while. I thought this was like a recent thing for you.
Yeah, no, I got out of the military in 2008, and then I still maintain the style of training that you do there. So it's mostly for muscular endurance and muscular strength and cardiovascular endurance. Those are the main principles they have you in the military follow. When I got into the bodybuilding thing, I knew about bodybuilding from Pumping Iron, the movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger made famous back in the day. That kind of was like what set off a lot of people in bodybuilding.
I love the
day.
pump. The pump. I've seen it a couple times.
Dude, are you referring to the documentary that he does?
It's better than calming.
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's the documentary. So, but, yeah,
it was interesting because, you know, he was probably about 60 at the time, the guy I worked with, and he had these massive arms and everything. He had 20-inch arms at 60 years old. I found that so fascinating and stuff, and people were just absolutely afraid of this guy because he was one of the guys that, like, if you're going to get fired, they would call him in to, like, kind of be the escort for them. So I started to pick his brain, and that's where I learned a lot of my techniques and stuff was coming from him, and that was back when I was 29-30, right around there.
Okay.
When I started, so more than a decade ago was when I actually started to go into the bodybuilding style training world.
Gotcha.
Cool. I think it's the one thing that you mentioned that I want to bring up, the fact that someone could be 60 years old and look incredible. But honestly, I've seen that in other people who work out religiously, maybe not if it's in a bodybuilding sense, but just to keep in shape. The skin, the body just looks completely different. Like, it looks better. So that's awesome that guy, he had
Definitely. Definitely. That's one of the things I tell people is that in the fitness world, you get a lot of people along the way who try to give advice, in their 20s and 30s. And that's fine. I mean, everyone can learn advice, but it's the guys that I really follow are the ones that are in their 50s that still look great, the 60s, the 70s even. I mean, those are the people that have been through it, who can give you advice on what to do correctly. Or you can look at them and say, you know what, I don't want to have shoulder issues like they do. I don't want to have a back problem like they do. So whatever they're doing, let me do the opposite of that to preserve my longevity.
That's a good point. So I think you can learn from anybody.
100%. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, you can learn something from.
That's a good point of view.
Yeah.
So you can take something away from no matter who it is or what situation it is.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Exactly.
Nice.
So I want to kind of talk a little bit about take a step back and kind of, you said you were in the Air Force. Tell us a little bit about the Air Force and, maybe some things you learned through being in the service.
So the Air Force usually gets cracked on a little bit for being the smarter of the bunches and everything. We have the best of the best when it comes to like food services and everything else like that, which a little bit's true, whatever.
Yeah.
I would say I probably learned more about myself and being a member of society basically in the military. Okay. So I mean I went to college and everything, I got my degrees, but I learned more about myself and actually how to be on my own and became a better person for having been in there and everything. They teach a lot of principles and how to rely on yourself, how to handle situations on your own, how to get help when you need help, how to assess situations, how to lead people, how to be a good follower when being led by other people. These are a lot of the principles I learned from them. To this day, I still use a lot of their principles.
Absolutely.
Some of the stuff I learned in their leadership schools, I still use at my job. I work in the operations manager.
Okay.
So a lot of the principles that I use there, I still use to this day from there.
Wow.
Yeah, it is important. I like that aspect of the leading, because I feel like a lot of civilians, there's a lot of leadership opportunity in the civilian world, but did you see a lot of differences or similarities between leadership in the military world and then like basically maybe what you did or how you saw your superiors when they led you? Is there similarities or is it different?
It's different. I mean, everyone has their own approach and everything. I had one of my sergeants, Sergeant Crawford, who was fantastic. He was a former Marine, and his style was he'd lead with you on the front line with you kind of aspect of it. And he had very good accountability, and what he said was what he did and lived by it. You had other leadership that was kind of a little bit more quieter. They had other people do the work for them. They weren't as like vocal. They wouldn't be there by you. So each person, using just those two kind of examples, I mean, each person, you weren't sure. It's just kind of like the civilian world too. You never know what your manager is going to be like and everything, your bosses and stuff. And same thing is there too. But the stakes are a little bit higher depending on who it is side by side with you. So
yeah, cool.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's a really good point. It sounds like you've taken away lifelong lessons from that time in the service. How long were you in the service?
I did just 4 years.
4 years?
4 years.
Okay. Well, it's not just 4 years, by the way. That's a hell of a, it's a long commitment. And, we obviously thank you here at this podcast for your service.
Thanks, guys.
We support the red, white, and blue 100%.
Yeah.
So
thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course.
You guys showed a real courage.
Yeah, really.
So,
thank you.
But, yeah, man. So, what would you say was, maybe do you have like a biggest takeaway from that experience of like, this made me cultivate mental toughness or made me have an awareness of what real hardship is and made me hardened for today in my life? Or, is there something that you really, that sticks out to you like, wow, this trait, this aspect of what I learned during that time really changed my life?
I would say probably that no matter how bad it is or how bad you think it is, you can get through it and overcome it. You can be put in some of the worst situations out there, and if you can handle that, you can handle anything. When I'm in the business world now and I work around people and they get freaked out about projects and deadlines, I kind of keep my cool, because when you've been around that kind of stuff, you kind of put things in perspective on what's really important, what's not important. And also, too, you kind of have an idea about your own skill set, and you'll be able to accomplish a lot of missions here as well, too. So that'd be the biggest thing I probably learned out of.
That's awesome.
That still carries me to this day.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a really good point. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was about to say that's huge, because a lot of us, maybe some of you listening to, maybe think that when you're at work or something, like you said, if there's a project coming up or a deadline and you're like freaking out about it, it's even though that may be like something that for you is something you need to freak out about or something very important, there's always, well, one, like you said, you're always going to be able to accomplish it, and two, there's always something that can be worse. You know what I mean? Like, don't put yourself in like a state of panic,
right,
so to speak.
I think it comes down to being calm under pressure.
100%.
Right.
100%.
And I think I've noticed that in you as well. You're always calm, cool, and collected.
I was literally just thinking this just now. I was like, when he's speaking, it's just really cool, because you're just all about that. You're just like, yeah.
But
Exactly.
it's important to be that way, because no matter what happens, like you said, you get in a car accident, you are late for work, or you forget something at home, or you have a project, like you said, that's overdue or whatever. Sometimes it feels like the end of the world, but if you're able to detach from the situation and be like, you know what, this really isn't that bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of the pressure is taken off, and you can kind of perform and do what you got to do under pressure, but also at the same time realize, like, this is pretty manageable.
Exactly.
Nice.
I love it.
That is great. So moving on to that, and then you got into, I guess we could touch a lot about your time as a what was it, I almost said physical therapist. That's not true. A personal trainer.
Librarian.
Yeah, the librarian. Yeah, as a personal trainer. So did you take? That must have been very easy for you to take that discipline that you learned to working out. I would say, not even before personal training. Like, when what made you want to start working out and really, like, you touched upon it a little bit, how you were able to succeed and people were asking you questions. Was there anything else? Like, what did you always have, even before joining the Air Force, did you always have an interest in working out? I know this before we turned on, you were a wrestler, so you wrestlers are phenomenal athletes.
I've probably been working out or competing in sports since the 80s, I would say, when I was little. So grew up playing, soccer, baseball, basketball, wrestling became a part of my life at one point in time. I can skate and all this other stuff too. So it was always like a guy who liked to go out and compete and like try to test myself, whether it's in sports or whatever, to kind of see what I can do. So when I came to the fitness and everything and the sports thing, it was just kind of a natural transition over time. I always had good cardio. I'm sure I've told you my stories on my cardio and everything.
Yep.
And it was kind of like a test, because I had moments in my life where I had to actually use my strength, and I could tell I was a little bit different than other people when it came to some of that stuff. I'm not the biggest guy in the world or whatever by any means, but pound for what I can do, I'm like, there's something here to this. It's very interesting. So I started to get into it, and obviously everyone struggles when they first get into it and stuff, but that's where you're going to separate yourself from the wheat from the chaff, is if you keep sticking with your fitness stuff. A lot of people do ask me, like, how do you do this? And it's just commitment and consistency to it. So the sports world that I was in, obviously you have to train to be in condition for it, but once I was conditioned enough for it, you start to be around guys who are, the bigger guys, the football players and stuff who lift weights, and that's where I kind of started to take interest in everything in that. And that's what led me to see and keep pushing. Once I started to see results, the weight was going up, my body was changing, and I was no longer the skinny kid I was when I was growing up. And it was just kind of further, it's almost like a drug. Like, once you start to actually see this stuff, it gets hard to, like,
1,000%.
Yeah. Once you get it, it sticks with you. It's the hardest part, is coaching people to get that. And once you get it, it's pretty much hooked for you for life.
Yeah. Well, it becomes like an obsession, right?
True.
Like an obsession of improvement.
True.
At least for me. That's how I see it.
No, I agree with you 100%. How many times, if you're going to the gym all the time, right, and then that one day that you have to take off, or you decide to take off, you're like, dude, I just don't feel right. I just don't. And then the next day you're like, oh, I feel like a fat blob, I gotta go to the gym, something like that. Yeah.
Do you have something that, on those days where you don't feel like doing it? We all have them. Do you, what really drives you to keep bettering yourself? you know, even to this day, you've said you've been in this over a decade of really consistently training, and what really motivates you and drives you the most to, you know what, I'm going to keep training?
Probably just my longevity over anything. I see people that as they get older, they don't take care of themselves. And I guess maybe one of my greatest fears is not being able to take care of my own self if I have to. Like I see people have to go to nursing homes, or I live in an apartment area where a lot of people spend a lot of their time going to doctors all the time, and I don't want that to be my retirement years. I want to be, you know, enjoying myself.
Absolutely.
And the guys that I did ask questions for that were older than me, they're still living good lives and everything like that. And that's what I want ultimately. Yeah, the body looks nice, or the weights are cool to lift and all that stuff, but the ultimate thing is, you know, the vehicle you're in that carries you through life, you got to make sure when you get to the end, it's as in good condition as best as possible, or you're going to have a hell of a bad time in the last couple of years.
Amen to that. I love
It's a
that.
hell of a way to look at it.
Yeah, really. I love that you just how you said you don't want to be one of those people that's constantly relying on the doctors. You know,
Right.
sometimes there are people who have to for medical reasons, but honestly, it ultimately boils down to how well you can take care of yourself now. What you do now is going to pay dividends in the end.
100%.
Yeah,
It's all about the long-term play, right?
Yeah,
Of
exactly.
looking at where you want to be and living with no regret.
Right.
Yeah. And how much better do you feel, well, not better, how well do you feel mentally that you're physically in shape? It must
good.
be, yeah.
It's pretty good. Like, I don't feel any difference between, now I'm in my 40s right now. I don't feel any difference between my 40s or my 30s or even my 20s that I feel between now and then and stuff. Like, that doesn't seem that different for me.
Huh.
Some things maybe a little bit slightly when it comes to, like, at least my cardio. I mean, it's not horrible, but, you know, it's a little bit, I can tell it's a little bit less different, but that's really about it. That's the only minor thing I've noticed along the way.
Gotcha.
Actually, yeah, there's one thing I wanted to know. So the cardio, you basically answered it. Is there an actual difference to when you start to get up in age and what you can and can't do compared to, like, could you do less now or more now that you train harder? Or I don't know, are you training harder now than you trained when you were 20? Like,
Right. So for this go around, I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to compete this year for bodybuilding, but I'm trying to rely more on doing steady state slow walking cardio than I did with my actual running. Because when I was getting in shape for my shows, I was still making sure I was still running at times. Because I love running. I love running outside. There's nothing for me better than being outside and running. But at the same time too, I think it might have hindered some of my actual size gains. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is, if you're a bodybuilder, you should be focused on the moves and exercises and training that's going to make you stay as a bodybuilder, not as a runner, not as a swimmer, not as anything else. You want to stay in that world because that's what you're trying to compete as.
makes sense.
Well, I want to touch on the piece that you said about maintaining your muscle as a bodybuilder. We kind of touched on that a little bit. I see you lifting insane amounts of weight in the gym, and looking at you, I mean, you're not a huge muscular guy. You know, granted, you're always wearing the baggy shirt, so nobody can even tell.
I do.
But seriously, your arms aren't like these 30-inch pythons, but you're lifting an insane amount of very impressive weight.
Well, I tell people too that ask me that, because you're
Todd's bigger than me. I'll give him the satisfaction.
You're not the first person to ask me that, but when it comes to fitness, and this is where I don't want to say I discourage people, but there's those people who are genetically predispositioned to excel in certain areas of the fitness world. So that's not just, you know, how much you can lift, but the size of muscle you can put on, your flexibility, your mobility, your cardio endurance. There's a lot of people who are born to have these gifts, and you can tell pretty quickly whether you're, you know, playing basketball when you're younger, or you're swimming, or you're lifting weights, or any other stuff. You can see, like, holy cow, they got something, because the rest of us are dragging behind this person. They're excelling far greater than the rest of us are in here. So I think what I have is basically what you see is one, it's genetically built into me to be able to do that. Based on muscle fibers, based on my family history and my genetics and everything. Like, I've had great grandfathers who were like super strong and everything, from stories I heard from like my father and my grandmother and everything too, that would tell me stories. I would hear stories about them, and so I think it's in my DNA to basically be that way. But you never know until you actually get in there and do it. So I'm not telling people, like, you know, don't ever try it, but, you know, just kind of keep your expectations realistically for yourself. I'm like, yeah, you can look at other people, compare yourself to what they're doing, like, oh shoot, that's a cool move, I want to do that. But don't compare yourself to, like, you know, their numbers they're getting or anything like that. That's where people start to lose And that's where people start getting injured, and that's where people get frustrated and quit, is because they're always looking at somebody else chasing after that.
Right.
Instead of looking where you're at and seeing where you're going, they stay and look in other people's lanes. Just stay in your lane and look in your lane.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Lee said, there is no other competition. It's just yourself. You're competing against
that.
yourself.
You versus you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in my case, me versus Todd.
Yeah.
One day I will beat him.
I think we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to do a follow-up thing to this. We're gonna have to do a Todd and Don in the gym
On the calf machine.
Yeah.
So I'm at 3 plates right now. Todd can do like 7.
Oh damn! Yeah, no.
So it's pretty wild. I think I saw his girlfriend actually on his shoulders, and he was doing the calf machine as well to add some more.
Fucking beast, man.
No, but I think it's so important what you said of to take your ego out of it. Of when look in the mirror and lift a weight. Like me, I go in the gym and I don't care if I'm lifting a 10-pound weight. You can think whatever you want of me.
There are some exercises I will do where I'm purposely using low weight.
Absolutely.
Because if you try to do it with 50 pounds, you're probably going to hurt yourself, and I actually can't.
Yeah.
So like I'm thinking of one specific with my shoulder. Like I have to use lower weights.
Yep.
Right. It's like I perfectly like getting your ego out of it is so fucking important.
Right.
You know the one thing that. And I never had this feeling, but I can see how people would. They go into the gym, they go, I don't want to work out because everyone's looking at me, making fun of me. One, no one gives, everyone is focusing on themselves. Right. And two, if you do have a person in the gym, in my opinion at least, that if you have a person in the gym who's fucking judging other people working out and trying, that person's an asshole.
So about themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That means that person is also insecure and
exactly.
worried what others think.
And that's the thing, in that kind of world, you'll find a lot of people who are battling a whole lot of issues, whether they realize it or not. I mean, I've been in this industry a while, so I can tell when people are battling things mentally or whatever, then they bring it to the gym and just let it loose out on people. Like the worst people I know are the people who always have to be the form police and try to correct everybody or give their 2 cents in on everything. And it can kind of discourage people who have, who are trying to do their own thing. And, you just threw somebody off their fitness course because, they weren't stable enough ready yet to get into their full-time regimen, and you threw them out basically and they didn't come back again. So
what's really cool to me is like seeing somebody new in the gym or somebody that you can tell they don't really have much experience, don't really know what they're doing, and maybe you go up to them and say, give them a helping hand or give them a tip. Like how good does that feel to help someone else, because you were in that position at some point.
Right.
You were the newbie.
100%.
So now, to see somebody maybe that's struggling to offer them a hand, I think it goes a long way as well.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. No, I agree with you.
100%,
yeah. So what, you're going to be a lifelong gym goer, you think?
I think so. I mean, ultimately, I like to have my own home gym. Like that'd be kind of nice to have everything set up, but it's nice to go to a gym. I don't have to worry about maintaining it or anything like that. So it's nice to have a membership for.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever done any, like Joe's a big Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. You ever done any of that crazy stuff?
I did, not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but back when I was younger, I did Taekwondo.
Okay.
So I learned a bit of that. And there's some stuff they taught us in the military too as well, but nothing that's like, BJJ kind of stuff or whatever.
Yeah. Gotcha.
No, for sure.
Which I want to shout out, is it Lobo?
Yeah, Lobo MMA. Yeah, shout out to Lobo MMA. Yo, congratulations on opening that gym. You guys are going to kill it.
In Blairstown, New Jersey. Nice and local. So go check them guys out. I think they're opening up in May.
Yeah.
So
they're opening up. Yeah.
Awesome.
Congrats, Adrian.
Congrats, definitely. Yep, congrats, Adrian and Colleen, for sure. Hell yeah. No, that's I actually, the funny thing you brought up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because I'm currently in going where I go Jiu-Jitsu gym, and I feel great when I'm doing both of them, but sometimes I'm just walking in there, I'm like, oh, my shoulder from yesterday, or like trying to, I don't know how, do you have any type of, how do you maintain your body to know that you're going to go balls to the wall, but at the same time you can stay healthy and not hinder your performance?
That's a tough question. For me, it's basically like I've been doing this so long and I can kind of tell, and I've been working with clients long enough to tell. One of the biggest things I do in the gym is whenever anybody sees me in the gym is I always have my notebook with me. I look like I'm a scribe of some sort. I'm always writing stuff down. That's one of the biggest things I use, is to write things down. If I see that my progress is starting to hinder on something, or my perceived rate of exertion is getting harder to do something that was similar, that's when I know I got to change it up or back off. Last week, actually the week before that, I was going through my normal lifts and I had my normal numbers, but it was a struggle to get to them. And then the numbers I should have gotten to, I wasn't hitting. So I took a couple of days off. Now I'm back again. Especially the older you get to and the more weight you can lift, that becomes more and more crucial. Or the more things you do, like, doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as you've seen a lot of guys who do UFC and stuff like that, sometimes they overtrain too much and end up getting injured and everything. And then you're no good at that point. So sometimes it's listening to your body, and sometimes it's putting your ego in check, and also too putting on your schedule days where you just rest. You can rest by just doing mobility and flexibility drills and stuff like that. Just allow your nervous system, which is a big component of your physical strength as well too, and your stamina and everything, a chance to kind of cool down. It's got to cool down. You can't just keep going 100, 100, 100 every time. You got to let it cool down and just go in variations of it.
Yeah. Would you say recovery is almost more important than the actual training?
I would say it's up there. It's definitely up there. One thing I learned along in my years is not only the ability to do work in the gym, but it's also your ability to recover from work. Some people are better recoverers than others, and some people are better performers than others.
Okay.
But you want to make sure that you perform the best of your abilities in both worlds. That's why it's not good to mimic someone all the time, especially if their system is a little bit different than your system, and you try to copy them and you get injured or you're just getting burned out or whatever.
Okay.
It's because you're not fitting what's the best plan for your physical ability is.
That's important.
So do what works for you.
Yeah,
right?
perfect.
Right? And that's
You can take things, and I've done. I've picked along the way. I learn an idea here, learn an idea there, and you kind of mix things along the way and put it to yourself. And that takes time. One of the biggest things in fitness, like the years in my military, is it just takes time. Everyone wants to rush it to the end. Everyone wants to be the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, whatever, in the shortest amount of time. That's no way to live. You want to take your time to get there and everything, and learning things along the way for yourself and works best for you.
That's huge. Yeah, take your time. That's something.
What's the rush? What's the time? What's the timeline? Right?
Exactly.
What are you trying to accomplish? Right?
Oh, I have to bench 275 by June 1st. It's like good to have that goal, but what's the timeline?
Yeah.
I gotta put on 30 pounds in a month or whatever, or 2 months. Like, what's the rush?
I guess if we're doing a bodybuilding show, it's a little different.
No, for sure.
True.
So lost my train of thought.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
No, I was actually gonna say about bodybuilding. Tell us about your first competition.
Yeah.
What were your nerves or thoughts going into it? How did you prep? What was the experience like?
I think I see some tan actually running. It's running on the table right now. Some residual tan coming off the skin.
I still tan once a week now. It's down a bit. It was different. I had going into it originally. I got with my former coach, Pat Greco, who's fantastic over Exile Training. About 2019, I went to go see him, and I've been a bigger guy, like I usually posted in my photo and stuff. I was about 215, 216 at the time.
Okay.
And I would have competed in 2020, but stuff happens, and everything shut down, so I couldn't compete then. So it was delayed until 2021. I did 4 shows last year in bodybuilding. My first one was for the fantastic organization called the OCB. It's for natural athletes and everything, so it was like the right environment I wanted to be in for that. I'm more realistic on what my expectations are on stage and everything compared to other guys, and not saying anything bad about anybody, but whatever you want to make these choices, that's your own choices, and you have to live with them. I just choose to go my own way. Prep was it was not the easiest because you got to change how you eat and everything, and prior to that, I was kind of one of those you see it, you eat it kind of guys and everything, because when you're trying to be as strong as possible, you got to get as big as possible by any means in some cases, which is kind of foolish now I look back on it, but it's what I did.
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
100%. So I was eating anywhere between 5 to 6 meals a day. It was pretty much the stuff you basically see in it, chicken, rice, and broccoli, sweet potatoes, hamburger meat, cauliflower, those kind of variations throughout the daytime. I had it all planned out with how many calories and my macronutrients, how much protein, how much carbs, and how much fat I should be having in the day and per meal and all that. That was probably the most tedious part of it, was just the food prep and everything and making sure to follow through on it. Because there's times where you don't want to eat that 4th or 5th meal or whatever. Your body's just spent, you're full, and you got to try to force it down in some cases. Workouts weren't too difficult. It was just a little bit more cardio. Like I was doing a lot of cardio a day, at least an hour of cardio a day, along with lifting, depending on the body parts. We did push-pull legs. Sometimes we mixed it up. We did drop sets, supersets, We did German volume training too as well, just to kind of mix it up and really tax my body. Bodybuilding is more based on a bit more volume than you would for strength. Strength's just usually like a couple reps and that's it. You're done, rest for a while.
Gotcha.
So as I got closer and closer to the show, it was definitely eye-opening. I've been to shows before, but it's obviously a lot different when you're actually there competing on stage. So the first night you get there, you check in, you go to the promoters, you check in with them, you get all your stuff, like you get like a number and everything to put on your suit. And then you go and you get your tan, whatever tan time is. So you get a coat of tan, they spray tan you. It's probably the coldest stuff ever on the face of the earth. They spray tan you head to toe. Then you can't shower or anything else like that for the rest of the night. So you're wearing like, big baggy clothes so you don't stain your sheets or whatever in the hotel. So they warn you about that. If you stain the sheets, you're going to be paying for it. Spray tan.
Wait a second. So you're tanning and you're spray tan without being able to shower the night before you're competing?
Yes.
Oh my God! I'd be like putting myself in a ball to try not to stain. Holy crap!
So I cranked the room temperature down I cranked it up pretty high, or to make it really, really freezing cold. So,
Jeez.
So you do that, and you really don't sleep. You sleep terribly because you're just thinking about the show. You practice throughout the nighttime. You have to eat certain times. You have to wake up to eat certain, foods and whatever, and drink a little bit of water, and practice your posing, as well as practice your individual routine. So I competed in men's bodybuilding. There's 3 different types of bodybuilding for men. There's men's bodybuilding, or the open style. There's classic physique, and then there's physique. Physique is the guys in the board shorts. Classic physique is the guys like in the Speedos. And bodybuilding is the guys in the really small Speedos, which is what I was in.
Okay.
So there's different routines you have to do for classic physique and for bodybuilding. So you have to actually practice your own routine with music and everything like that.
So you're like a choreographed.
Yes, yes. Most of them actually don't score you on it, which is kind of, I don't know. I wish they would score you on it. Some of them do. They let you know that there's going to be the best poser award for it. Most of them don't do that. And it doesn't even count towards your total in most cases.
So did you come up with your own routine, or did your coach help you out with that?
He helped me get my posing down, and then I kind of would like look up things I've seen on guys online and everything. There's a bunch of guys I follow online that I see. Guys like Frank Zane's probably like my all-time favorite, and Dorian Yates, and guys like that, where I learned from some of the moves and poses they did, and I would implement it into like a routine to like my music and everything.
Gotcha.
So when you compete, you get called out with your group, usually it's by height or weight, depending on the organization that does it, or your age category. So they have age categories. They have if it's your first time. They have if it's lightweight or heavyweight version. They have different, that breaks it down depending on the organization. Like NPC has a lot of different minor subsets in between it, whereas OCB and the other natural federations don't have as many subsets in it.
Gotcha.
So you step out there with your group, and the first time you step out there, it's you and a bunch of other people, and there's a lot of people looking right at you and everything, with the lights on you and everything, and judges right in front of you, just sitting there scoring away.
Nerve-wracking.
A little bit, yeah. From playing sports, though, it kind of helped, so I wasn't as nervous as, I guess, if you had never competed in sports where everyone's watching you kind of thing. So it wasn't as bad as what you'd think. I mean, but I was confident. I had practiced a lot and posed a lot, so they call off the poses and the turns and everything, and you do it and you nail it.
Okay.
So,
well, maybe let's circle back a little bit and touch on the diet aspect of bodybuilding, because I mean, that's a hell of a, you got to be really disciplined to follow that kind of diet.
Yeah, it is.
And I guess, my question with it is, for somebody just starting out with their, like, wanting to follow a diet and stuff, maybe they're not all in bodybuilding, or maybe they are, but what for you made you stick to that diet? Because for me, I mean, diet is really hard. Like, I see a piece of cake, I want to eat it. A piece of candy, I want to eat it. It's an everyday test, really.
Right. One was the fact that I had a coach I was paying money for, so that was something that I'm paying a lot of money for this guy. I better be hitting this on point. Yeah. But 2, it's just like my natural inability to challenge myself. I kind of like that challenge, whereas I remind myself that people can't do this. They give up on this. I got to stick with this. I can't fail. I got to make it happen. That's just what's going through my mindset, and it's tough. It's not easy, and as we get closer and closer to our body weight, anybody that's competed will tell you, like, when you're at that last week or so, you're just miserable, because it's like you're totally depleted. Your testosterone's low, your energy levels are low. I mean, your strength is like not there anymore. And you're at You look the best, but you're probably at the worst physical shape you're probably at to get on the stage.
You look the best, but you're probably at your worst physical. I would never. I mean, I could understand now that how you explain it, but I would think looking at you guys up there, you'd be like, dude, these guys are fucking beasts. You don't know who you are, but I thought you guys like could then go right afterward, start lifting again.
Yeah, no, the adrenaline kicks in. Like when you're up there, it is a rush. I mean, there's a lot of people coming to see you. People are cheering and everything, and you're posing and hitting, and it is quite a rush to get that, and that's what probably carries you through it. But when I went to the gym after I'd finished, it was bad. It was just my strength. It took me a while to get it back. I had to eat a lot more like junk calories and stuff to get more carbs in me and everything to build my strength back up again to what it used to be. It definitely took a severe hit, but it took me a while, probably about a month and a half before I was back to what I consider normal for myself.
Yeah, that's incredible. Actually, expanding upon the diet, you were talking about macros. Can you actually just go into like what are the differences between macros and micros? Because myself, I don't really know too much about macros. I don't like weigh my food or anything. I just try to follow a diet. That's not always good at it, but like, what's the difference between macro and micro, and like what type of diet?
Right. So macros, your macros are the main categories that, let's say, food gets broken down into. They get put into like, there's three main ones, but there's also a fourth one too as well. So the big three is your protein, your carbs, and your fats. But also alcohol falls a separate category all on its own. It's actually a separate category altogether. So for each gram of protein and carbohydrates, it's about 4 calories. For fat, it's about 9 calories. And for alcohol, it's 7 calories. What you need for your intake is based individually upon yourself and your size and your height and everything else. There's applications you can do. You can meet with nutritionists to kind of give you a better idea of what you probably should gear for your body. For bodybuilding, generally the rule of thumb is usually about per pound of weight, a gram of protein, carbohydrates about 1.5 to 2 on a high side. If it's a little bit too much for you, kind of pull it back. And then fat would be the remainder left over, usually not more than like 0.5 for your body weight and stuff for your fat. You do need fat though. A lot of people sacrifice the fat, but that can actually harm and lower some of your other hormones. Micronutrients is everything else that's combined deeper in the vitamin and mineral world. So your micros are all based off of that. So like multivitamins and everything, that's where you get your micronutrients from, and food and everything. So that's what it breaks down further into those areas.
Cool.
So those are your macros and your micros.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Is it like, if I'm understanding it correctly, let's just say you wanted to bench, I don't know, 225 pounds, you would just have to do that conversion for, what did you say, half a gram or a gram of protein? So is it like you're saying, okay, I'm doing 4 sets at this weight. Now today I have to eat X amount of grams of protein? Is that like how it goes?
For me and my experiences, not necessarily. I usually have people more focused more on carbohydrates.
Okay.
Through the years, I've kind of done a lot of my own research and everything and seen stuff in play, and a lot more research shows that like you don't need as much protein as like what they want you to believe that you need. Carbohydrates are much more important to making sure that you can maintain a lot of your size. You can eat all the protein you want. It'll eventually convert over to what's called ketones.
Okay.
So actually, skip that. It actually will convert over to amino acids, which is what protein breaks down to, which in turn can convert over to a carbohydrate. Like carbohydrate, meaning a simple sugar, so it breaks down to amino acids. That's where your amino acids come from, is from protein. Your body can use it as energy. And it can also, if you don't have enough carbohydrates, it'll actually start to convert your fat over to ketones to also use that as energy too.
Okay.
So you're over to ketones. But the body, especially the mind, prefers to use carbohydrates. You're at your best. Generally, if you're overtraining and you eat a little bit more carbs, you just feel a lot better the next day. Same thing with this. When I was doing my training and everything for bodybuilding, most of my carbohydrates were focused before I came into the gym and after I came into the gym, because that way I was using them for what I needed to use them for.
Smart.
And that's what I'd say for most people with that. If you want to lift stronger over time, you do need some protein, but you do need a bit of carbs to go with it. That's why the carb ratio is generally higher than the protein ratio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Damn. Yeah.
Do you find yourself still? I mean, you did this bodybuilding routine for quite a long time. being that you're not doing one right now, do you still find yourself kind of following the same routine?
Some of it, yeah. Some of the aspects of it are still trying to pull me in to kind of come back to it again. Yeah. But I still do. I don't really drink as much water as I used to.
Okay.
I used to do the whole gallon jug and all the other stuff. And I still drink enough throughout the daytime, but I mean, I drink a lot of other liquids. Like, I mean, you can still get water intake from coffee, even diet sodas and whatnot, or diet drinks can still provide, you know, hydration for you to a degree. So I'm not sitting there religiously chugging that gallon of water and nothing else.
Gotcha. I think I've definitely trained myself to. I mean, I only drink a gallon of water a day, and that's like all. That's all I will drink. I've been doing it for quite a while, a few years.
For real?
Yeah,
that's
like a gallon a day.
Good.
Most days, not every day, but it's kind of like I play a game with myself. Like I can't drink anything else until that gallon's done. And it's usually late at night, and I'm like, well, gallon's not done yet.
Yeah,
I can't drink nothing else.
Well, because it's good. Like, think about a gallon of anything, even a gallon of water is feasible, but at some point you're just drinking so much damn water. I mean, it's good, right? It gets a little boring after a while.
It does.
You get full. You have to go to the bathroom.
It gets boring.
You know?
Yeah.
But no, it's important. That's awesome that you do that.
Like everywhere I go, I know exactly what the bathroom looks like by heart.
Yeah, because you're always there all the time. Actually, hold on, but expanding on this with water, I experienced this the other day where I went to jiu-jitsu, but beforehand, I decided, you know, I was going to go visit my grandparents. And of course, being Italian grandparents, they made me something to eat, some sandwiches, right? You know, I had a mortadella sandwich with mozzarella. And then
forget about it.
Forget about it, right? And then my grandpa was like, take a Heineken. He loves Heineken. So I had a Heineken with them. I drank no water that day. And that night, by the time the second roll, I have good stamina when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Second roll, I was dead. My friend goes, dude, you sound like a freight train. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I think I didn't drink enough water. Literally, I felt awful. Mouth dry, everything.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how much water do you recommend then, from your point of view?
I would say at least whatever your body weight is, half of that at a minimum for most people. That usually will be enough for them.
Gotcha.
An ounce is correct. Yeah.
That's all.
Ounces.
Yeah. So if you weigh 200, then it'd be 100 ounces.
100
you know?
ounces.
Everyone's different because I mean I've seen people like your size drink a gallon of water. I've seen someone who's like 5 feet tall drinking a gallon of water.
Yeah.
You guys have different, you know, thirst requirements and hydration requirements, and it's not going to be the same for either or. So
it's funny. Some days I'll be like kill the gallon like really fast, be really thirsty, and other days I don't feel like drinking it at all.
Yeah.
Why would you say that is?
Well, it depends on a lot of things. I mean, stress can always affect you too as well. If you're stressed out, you may not want to eat as much. Some people want to eat more. Some people want to eat less when they're stressed out. Same thing with liquids too as well. It also depends what you're eating. If you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, they do have water in it to a degree.
Gotcha.
If you are consuming other stuff, I mean, factor in, you know, juices and sodas and coffee and teas and anything else like that too. I mean, or milk or anything like that. I mean, it all plays into it, whether you realize it or not. Yeah,
Makes sense.
Contributes. It all contributes.
Makes sense.
I know plenty of people that lived, you know, day to day without drinking any water at all whatsoever, like pure water.
Yeah.
And they don't keel over from dehydration.
Yeah.
Now, could they go out and roll on the mat or go for a run? Probably not.
Yeah.
But they're not keeling over.
Yeah.
You know, from
it's interesting.
Hey, you said that. I never really thought about how if you eat broccoli like that has water, that would then fill you to a point where probably that's why you're drinking water. You know.
My pop said once, because we told him, you got to drink more water. Pop's my grandfather, we call him Pop. And he goes, nah, there's water in my coffee.
Yeah, it's
there you
true.
go.
And I always thought that was just like a big joke, but you actually just confirmed to me that you get some water from your coffee.
The water goes through the beans and goes into the cup. So
But can you really count that?
I would say yes. I would say you can count it.
Well, you know more than me.
I would say you can count it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of those people who do like those fasting, like, you know, a lot of those fasting programs they always allow for black coffee because it's water, essentially.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
That was awesome.
Pop, you're doing good.
Shit. Dude, if I was doing if I was doing what you were doing, I would motivate myself putting a damn milkshake there just so I know I can't drink that before I would kill that shit. I would want a milkshake.
Yeah. Well, I like the whole aspect of gamifying things.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like it comes back to you versus you on everything.
Right.
Like I take it down to even the smallest things like that, like drinking water. Like you better drink that by 2:00 today because yesterday it took you till 3. Like I'll do these stupid games in my head and just.
But that can make it more. That can make it more fun.
Yeah, because I get bored easily, so I gotta keep it. I gotta keep things fun.
Exactly. Right.
Speaking of fun, what do you like to do for fun, Todd? Besides the gym.
I I like to travel, go see things that like I might not have seen before. Like to go to movies when there's something good out. I saw Batman the other day. That was pretty good.
Nice.
Like music.
What's your favorite like band? I would say if you had to pick one.
Oh, that's tough. As I gotten older, that's just like depends on the week. Depends on my band.
Yeah.
Lately, it's been Tool, the band Tool. I've been listening to a lot of. It'll probably change within a week or so.
Yeah.
Somebody else. What else? Reading. I love reading. That's
Awesome.
what I spend a lot of my time doing. Like, when I was in before I got my degree in exercise science, I remember taking some classes, some computer programming classes. And I was around these kids, and saying kids like like 20 years old or whatever, they're just going into college or whatever, and the professor would give us like topics to do or whatever, like they'd show us on the board a program to write, and they would just blow right through it, like in like 2 seconds, have it ready to go on the computer and have it doing what the program is supposed to do. I'd be struggling a little bit trying to figure out like what to do, and they would like tell me like, this is like what we do, like this is what we do on our off time. So that's the same way I am with my fitness stuff. Like when I'm on my off time, I'm always researching and looking stuff up, like the more the science that comes out. Exercise science is pretty interesting because it's one of the more newer sciences that's constantly changing all the time. So I'm constantly reading the research.
Gotcha.
So I have all this knowledge. It's just years of me just sitting there too as well, researching a lot of stuff on my own and looking it up.
I love it. What's you have like a favorite book that, not a favorite book, but maybe a book you recommend for somebody to, maybe if they want to learn a little bit more about exercise science and the body and things like that?
I would say, not sure exactly on a book for that. I would say maybe You Can't Go Wrong with Arnold Schwarzenegger's Bodybuilding Encyclopedia. That's a pretty good book. There's some works out there by Frank Zane. He has some books on his website that he talks about it. Frank Zane is more, I consider more like the ideal physical type. So a lot of stuff that he wrote about. He's got a bunch of books at home that I've read a bunch of times that are pretty good.
Awesome.
There's another guy too, Clarence Bass. He's a guy that was like not as well known, but he actually invented the term shredded.
Oh, yeah?
No, I'm sorry, ripped. Ripped was a term he actually came up with back in like the 70s. And he's pretty interesting. He's like in his 80s now. There's a couple books by him that I've read that are really good. And my favorite is probably Mike Menser. He's a former bodybuilder. I have almost all his books he ever wrote. There's about 5 or 6 of them that I highly recommend if you can get your hands on them, where he actually goes against a lot of the voluminous training that bodybuilders do and more the high intensity training that they do. He helps bring that in.
Awesome.
That's cool.
How about places you traveled to? Where's the good spots?
Well, probably. Well, I used to live in Las Vegas, so.
Oh, you gotta tell us. You gotta tell us
I
about
was
that.
like,
You gotta tell us about that.
I was gonna
Stop
ask
the
you
story.
in the beginning between Nevada. You said Texas,
San Antonio.
Connecticut, and Jersey. What was the best?
I would say probably Las Vegas is probably the best. Yeah,
Shit.
it's fun. I mean, it changes though. I mean, every couple of years they change the facade and the buildings of it. So I've been out there a couple of times. Well, not recently, but every time I've gone out there since I left, it's always changing. This building's coming up, this building's coming down, and just the whole atmosphere of it. But it's definitely a city to go to.
Were you on the Strip or were you outside of it?
No, I was outside the Strip, so I had a view from my apartment down towards the actual Strip area.
Okay.
Most people that actually live there full time don't really go to the Strip that often. Like you're kind of like, that's the tourist spot.
Yeah,
I don't want
makes
to go
sense.
there.
It's like the Times Square of New York City.
Yeah.
I hated that place.
Sometimes you go because like they have like concerts there and whatnot, or like family comes in from out of town, so you gotta take them down there. But for the day-to-day stuff, you try to avoid that area because it's just
makes sense.
Crazy stuff.
A lot of crackheads.
Probably.
Most of the locals go to like they have local casinos outside those areas. So that's where the locals usually go.
Gotcha.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, like the station casinos. Those are like big out there.
Do the locals try to keep that on the DL? Like, let's not like have these.
Right?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, most people that do go there don't want to go to the local stations.
Okay. Yeah.
The station casinos is what they call them.
Yeah.
They usually stick to the bigger ones and everything. Everyone wants to go see the,
Yeah.
I was in Vegas
Bellagio.
one time and it was like, I don't know, 5:30 in the morning, and I had already slept from the day before. I got up really early. I was at a business conference, and I get up at like 5:30 and say I'm gonna go for a run. So I started running down the Strip. I mean, you would know, but it's like it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Really?
The amount of people on that strip, they were still partying from the night before, hanging out. Oh yeah, it was wild. It was wild to see.
Dude, I've yet to make the trip to Vegas. I need to do it soon.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Highly recommended.
So,
well, I was gonna ask, have you ever seen like anyone on the strip like when you were there?
Mhm.
Do you ever see like Chris Angel or what's the other one, David Blaine doing like street magic or any type of street magic?
Not
like that?
street stuff, but I used to go to. They would get us tickets from the military guys, like UFC events,
Oh,
other
nice.
events too. So
Yeah.
you would sit around some like celebrity people. Like I
Nice.
remember, I had Kevin James not that far away from me, and Adam Sandler not that far away from where we were sitting at.
That's
So it was
fucking
pretty cool.
awesome.
You would see people on occasion, like very famous celebrities and stuff, walking around, but not as often as what you'd think. But you'd see them.
Yeah.
See them.
Pretty neat.
Pretty
Pretty
neat.
neat.
That is dope.
Yeah.
Fuck. Damn.
So, we touched on wrestling a little bit.
Mhm.
I know you're a big wrestling fan.
Mhm.
I'm going to pose a question to you.
Okay.
Okay? You are reincarnated as a wrestler. You're in WrestleMania. Who you wrestling?
Well, since I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s, that'd be tough because there's a lot of good choices to go against. I would probably say Hulk Hogan. Would probably be
yes,
the
you
guy
gotta-
in
you
his
gotta hit
prime.
that.
Yeah,
I
probably
like
the guy in his prime. Hulk was always, growing up, was like the guy. He was as big as Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson or any of those people back
Yeah.
then. He was just as big. And if I was to compete for something like that, you want to compete against the biggest name in the world and stuff, which
Yeah.
at the time was
Yeah.
him. He was the biggest.
Yeah, he was the guy to. He was the Michael Jordan of wrestling, I
Right.
guess, right?
Essentially.
Back in the day.
Yeah, I miss wrestling. I didn't know you were going with. I didn't know you were a WWE fan. I was. Were you an Attitude Era? Did you like WWE?
I did, but I
Yeah.
wasn't the Attitude Era. I started with like Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, Jeff Hardy. Yeah, hell yeah.
Generation X.
Yes.
Triple H,
Right.
suck it.
Dude, I used to do like swanton bombs on the couch, and I think I like broke the couch, and my dad would get so mad at me. But like,
It's real, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
There's no storyline at all.
Yeah. Yes.
So my other favorite guy was John Cena. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
John Cena.
can't see him. So,
Yeah, you're really yeah. Who you talking about?
but
Damn.
no, I mean wrestling was always fun to watch.
I
It was
love
always
it,
like a
yeah.
big treat to like, oh mom, can I please get the pay-per-view? I want to watch WrestleMania
Yeah,
or
dude.
Summer Smash or whatever it is.
Yeah,
SummerSlam.
Yes.
So-
Dude, honestly, I feel like they do such a good job they did such a good job back then in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. The plots were so much better. The acting was so much better. I mean, I don't know. I haven't watched it now, so I can't speak to now, but I loved it back then.
Yeah.
So much fun.
You still watch
Right.
it, Todd?
On occasion,
Yeah.
like I watch a little bit of AEW, which is more of like the new rival for
Okay.
for WWE. It was like the way WCW was back in the '90s was like the way this is now.
Gotcha.
They got a little more. If you like wrestling, that's what they show more of instead
Yeah.
of like less of the
The show,
storyline stuff.
yeah.
It's more
Yeah.
the actual in-ring stuff. So I'll follow like CM Punk is like the guy I follow the most
Gotcha.
like nowadays.
He was big in ECW
He was
for a while.
He was ECW was incredible. back in
Yeah, I
the
don't know. Are
day.
they still around? I don't know.
No, ECW's they're
They're
long
done.
gone. WWE bought them out and WCW out, and I think that's why the
Gotcha.
product has suffered because
Yeah.
when you don't have a competition,
Yeah.
it's like what drive do you have to really
Yeah.
to write the best storylines possible?
Well, I think they were genius in doing WWE Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown.
Mhm.
It's the same exact company.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They created like a rivalry,
Yes.
and that was genius.
Or think about you said you know how WWE bought out WCW and ECW.
Mhm.
They did such a good job with that. Like, because as a kid, I didn't know that when it was the invasion of WCW, I didn't know that like I was like, oh my god, I hope WWE wins. Like I can't, dude. They were always gonna win because they bought them out.
Exactly.
It's incredible how that works.
Did you ever see The Great Khali?
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Well, when I saw him when he first came on,
Uh-huh.
I was like, there's no way anybody can beat him. I was like, it's impossible. And then I think like Rey Mysterio beat him or something.
Yeah, I remember
like
that
one match.
Yeah, I
I'm like,
remember
really? I'm like, Mom, is this real?
Yeah.
I was like, that was the moment I knew.
Yeah.
When a 5'2" little dude beats this like 7'9"
Yeah.
giant.
Dude, that
So-
kid, that guy was
He was in the longest yard. Did you know that?
Yeah.
That's
best in my opinion. Best part of that movie is when he's playing ping pong.
Yep. Yeah. It's awesome. Who's the other one?
What, in WWE?
Yeah, the big Samoan guy.
Oh, you
It started with a U.
No,
Started with a U.
no, Umaga.
Umaga.
Umaga, dude, that guy was nuts.
For some reason, I always enjoyed watching him too. I don't
Yeah.
know. Umaga.
I was big into Undertaker, of course. I
Nice.
loved
Yeah.
Undertaker.
I met his
was
brother.
You met
Kane.
Kane?
Yeah,
Wow.
I met Kane.
Isn't he like the mayor of some town or city in Tennessee?
I
Yeah.
don't know. Is he?
It is,
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
How is he? Is he nice?
Yeah, he was a nice guy. Huge. I mean, he's really
He's
tall.
fucking huge.
But he was a really nice guy. I saw him without his mask on because on the TV he always wore that red mask
Yeah.
and the Inferno and all that.
Yeah.
I met him he was at M&M Mars at the car show.
Oh wow.
Really?
At like his own booth. Like he was like, I don't know, like a sponsored celebrity of the show or something.
How long ago was this?
This was when I was really little, maybe 20 years ago.
Oh, dude! So you had like a sneak peek before he removed the mask.
Yeah.
You were like,
Well, I saw him on the mask on the TV first, and then when I saw him in person, I was like, "Whoa, that's what his face looks like."
oh my god, that's so sick.
So I still have his signature, by the way. I'm selling that
that's
if anybody's.
Shit.
So
That's
gas
awesome.
times are tough. I need gas money.
Yeah, he does. I'll sell a picture of Kane unmasked.
Yeah. So, but some final thoughts, Todd,
Yeah.
for the listeners.
I would say that, like I said before, your goals are your own. You know, I mean, you can take them from other ideas and other places and stuff, and chart your own journey based on those goals. If you need help with something, you can always reach out to someone who's got, advice or whatever. Like I prefer to look for people who are, more seasoned and everything. They can always give you a good chart to go by and a good course to be set for whatever your goals are, and depending on what you want to do, whether you want to get bigger, stronger, faster, more flexible, whatever it is. Always learn, keep learning all the time. Exercise science is an ever-evolving field. Same thing with nutrition. We don't know all the ins and outs of it right now, but we're still slowly learning it. So if you can stay current with the actual science and not so much the celebrities and the influencers that are involved, you should do all right with it. And also, like do what I do, document your journey, make annotations. Again, ask people if you're not going the right direction, whatever your goals are. You can't get to a destination unless you don't know what the destination is. So that's the first and most important thing is pick your destination and kind of write your plan from there.
I love it.
Cool.
I love it, man.
That was awesome.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Yeah.
So, Joe, you got any final thoughts?
No, man, that was awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you,
that was-
guys.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was very
Yeah.
informative. I learned a lot. A lot of stuff I didn't know prior about the nutrition aspect, and also didn't even know a lot about how much goes into the night before of a competition like that. That's insane.
It is.
Yeah, I just also wanted to say once again, thank you for your service to this country.
Welcome.
It was a pleasure meeting you, and thank you for coming on. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome back anytime, brother.
Oh,
Excellent.
where can people find you actually? They want to
You
find
know I was forgetting something.
Yeah,
Damn.
The easiest place to find me on is Instagram. Strength_of_a_of Alliance is the easiest way to find me, or Todd Lyons, CSCSCPT. You can find me on there as well too from the Instagram. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me and ask me. I'll be happy to answer.
Todd will definitely have the answer for you. If he doesn't know it himself, he will find it for you. I promise you that. So thanks again, Todd. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show. Once again, find us on YouTube at We'll Take It From Here Podcast, Instagram at We'll Take It From Here Podcast, and Spotify. We are on there, working on getting in the other places, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week, guys.
Share the show.
Yeah.